Hi guys, welcome back to SSA Athletics, where we talk about everything to do with athletics to help improve your training. Now, in case you're wondering what this is, well, it's Movember, so that's hence why I've got this silly moustache. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the particular performance shoes, mostly spikes, I use in order to help with my athletics. Now, the main types of running shoes you will particularly see on your average track day will be your middle distance and your sprint spikes, and there are some main differences in between those two particular shoes. I'll show you these shoes, and yes, I do realise there's some gaping big holes in these, and naughty me, I really should get a new pair. Great job, Christmas is around the corner. And by the way guys, if you like most of these shoes, there will be links down below where you could particularly find them or buy them, although you're not under any pressure to do so. I generally like Asics personally myself, and these here are my middle distance shoes, which I use as a sprinter to training. And the reason being is because they give you some protection on your heel. Now, you find with developing children in particular, they have a lot of ankle problems. And this is one of the reasons why you should not warm up in spikes. Do not warm up in spikes. It's an absolute ridiculous idea that will end up with your child being injured or yourself being injured, particularly down the calf. When we're looking at this middle distance shoe, we have a nice bit of a heel here, but it's still quite fairly light. And this is what I use to train, and I don't use these during competition. Now we're going to look at the sprint spike. Here is my sprint spike. This is a Mizuno Tokyo. And if you notice, there's no heel. And on sprint spikes in particular, they do not have a heel. And the reason being is that you're not sprinting or running on your heel. You're running on the forefoot mostly. Unlike our middle distance spike there. With this spike in particular, the way it's arched up is to get you more onto your feet, onto your toes, where you sprint faster. Now, this is another reason why you shouldn't warm up in spikes, because sprint spikes have no heels, meaning you have the greater chance of getting injury in your ankles, in your calf, more so than the middle distance spike, which is still a high chance that's going to happen to you. So for a sprinter, middle distance spikes in practice. In competition, you wear sprint spikes. Now, there's going to be some occasions where running in or sprinting in sprint spikes is actually very useful as a sprinter. And that's when you're working at maximal pace training, flat out, doing short sprints or working for time trials, that kind of thing. They come in quite handy. Or even block starts. Doing block starts, I recommend these because you're not going very far. Likewise, your sprint shoes, your sprint spikes, are your ultimate performance shoe as a sprinter. Therefore, you should look after them. You don't want to pound them too much. Now, with our middle distance spikes, there are two main types. You got your standard middle distance spike, which have a slightly larger heel, but then you've also got racers. And in the modern era, racers are designed more like sprint spikes. They don't have much of a heel. They still have a heel, but they don't have much of a heel. Because when we're in competition, we want to be as light as possible. And sprint spikes are awfully good for speed, so for an 800 meter runner, having such a spike with not much of a heel is actually quite beneficial, because an 800 meters is a fast jog followed up by a sprint, or a stride and a sprint. Therefore, we need to have the shoe that's designed specifically for the event to make sure that you, as an 800 meter runner, will run faster. An 800 meter runner is more like a 400 in terms of the type of energy systems they're utilizing and the way they run, compared to, let's say, a 15 or a 5 or a 10K. Although some 1500 meter runners will utilize racer type like shoes with really light material. And these shoes will end up breaking down quicker. That's one of the reasons why we don't use them that often in training. These shoes, the ones I have in my hands, for me, are used in competition. So they are the two most common spikes utilized by athletes who on a very specific event, let's say a field event, like high jump or long jump or triple jump or pole vault. Then the types of shoes you're going to utilize may look very much different to average track spike. These yet again are for performances and performance reasons. Yet again, it may be beneficial for you, let's say as a high jumper, to have 2 or 3 different types of spikes. Naturally, as a multi-eventer, you're going to have multiple different types of shoes. We're going to look at 2 spikes in particular, that being jump spikes and high jump spikes. So, what's the difference? Well, these shoes here, both made by Asics, look very, very much similar, but they're not. If we look at their soles, one is designed for long jump, and the other one is designed for high jump. Notice the extra grip and friction you have on this shoe. This shoe, being a high jump spike, is not particularly designed to get you up to speed. It's quite a bulky shoe. But what it is designed, you won't be able to see, but it's actually leaning over to the left. And you find with both pair of the shoes, with these Asics ones in particular, they lean you over to the left, like Michael Jackson or the Tin Man. And the reason being is because it gets you on a curve, and when you do a high jump, you move round on a curve. So this is to help you get there, so that you can jump higher. Now, they've also got this really weird thing where we've got spike pins, which is what you put in the bottom of spikes to give you extra traction and grip, on the heel. And the weird looking spike pins, they don't look like your standard spike pin. They're square and they're circular at the ends of them. Well, yeah, that's to give you rotation. These in particular are high jump spikes. More about that later. Yes, they're designed to make you jump higher. This particular spike is made or designed to make you jump further. And what it has differently, yes, we've got that traction bit there, but then it goes into a standard spike at the end. Still quite a bulky shoe. But what you would notice is this array of spikes here. Still, we've got these round circular spikes. Really weird. But likewise, these will design to get you height. But with the speed you build from the runway will help you to drive further. In other words, increase your long jump, triple jump, and maybe even pole vault speed. Now, what you find with most spikes, or most long jump spikes in particular, is this section here. Very flat section. This probably doesn't show it well, but if we look at this Nike example, if you hit the green stuff, that's being the board, this plasticine at the end of the board, it's to prevent a mark in the board itself, meaning you're less likely to get a no jump. Of course, rules and that change all the time, and if you hit the green stuff, and I don't recommend you do try and hit the edge of the board, because you should be hitting the board, this will less likely to perforate that plasticine. Nice bit of heel at the end, unlike our track spikes, gives you a lot of protection upon your heel. And you're going to need it in both of those spikes, because you're hitting your heel onto the ground and utilising that to drive yourself forward to get more height. Or in the long jump, triple jump case, distance also. Now, the next 2 pair of shoes I'm going to be talking about in particular are, one of them is really necessary and the other one's probably not so necessary. It's more of a luxury. And the one that's not so necessary are these here. These are my weightlifting shoes, and you don't as an athlete particularly need them, but I like them because they help me lift. And they also help protect my shoes from being utterly vaporized. So what we got here, massive heel at the back, getting on a platform, and they help to get your toes up, so you're always lifting off the heel, protects those hamstrings, protects the calves, makes it easy to lift when you're doing squats. Some people even use them during cleans, I personally do. Some people don't, they find it makes it harder, but generally when I weightlift, I wear these. These are Innovate's Fast Lift 335, and I've had these for a few years now, and they last a very long time because when you're in the weight room, personally, I'm only in there 2 hours and I'm not utilising every exercise utilising these shoes. So that's one of the reasons why they last so long. And they help to protect my own trainers because I'm not lifting in my trainers. Now, when it comes to our trainers, just like with the middle distance bikes, we have trainers and racers. 2 types of athletic shoes. Racers are often lighter and are designed for competition. Trainers are designed much thicker and designed for practice. Now, you can get carbon fibre plated trainers, That's only if you really want to spend 200 to 500 quid. Not me. There are much cheaper options, around 30 to 60 or 70 quid. Things are much more available to the average person. Now, if you want to do athletics properly, I recommend changing your trainers. Once one pair starts to wear out, you buy another pair. So you always have a pair ready. You always have 2 to 3 pairs of trainers. Now that's not me trying to advertise or sell you stuff. That's just what I found beneficial to me as an athlete who's willing to perform. A damaged pair of trainers can cause potential injury because they change how the foot is landing onto the ground. They may create movement into the ankle, that kind of thing. It's also bearing in mind that some trainers won't fit certain people. You may need an insole, for instance, inside your shoe. And the type of shoe you have will be highly personal to you. Do you need one that is better for a flat foot, or do you need one that's better for an arched foot? Flat or arched? And that's one thing you're going to have to find out looking at yourself or your own children. What may also be beneficial to some, for instance myself, I utilise my older pair of trainers for when I'm doing grass hills or sand hills, or when I'm running in the mud, for instance. And I have a normal pair of trainers, the better trainers, which I use for training and when I go to competitions. Cross-country spikes. And they're very thick and they're designed to go through thick mud so that you can run potentially fast while on an uneven surface. They do get muddy and they do need cleaning often. Get out the old scrubber, or if you really wanted to, take the spike pins out and stick them in the washing machine. Now, spikes designs change all the time. And these types of spikes were prominent, and their designs were prominent in the 2000s and 2010s. However, we are now going into 2020s, and we're not too sure how the carbon fibre technology will help to improve sprinting. We are seeing it improve marathon shoes. Potentially there's a great possibilities for them to be utilised in all types of spikes, and now we're starting to see Nike develop carbon fibre plated sprint spikes and middle distance running spikes. Until they are made available to everyone, we don't know. And at this present moment in time, they're going to be exceedingly expensive. All this development in terms of carbon fibre is actually having an adaptation upon the type of shoe design itself. So it'd be interesting to see how this happens. And we will only really figure this out when we look at the shoes at the Tokyo 2021 and the next Olympics after that. And when these shoes will finally become available. It's an exciting time for spikes and spike pins, and the world is changing. I hope you like this video. Please smash subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.